Cool. All right. Hello, everybody. Sorry about last week. I was just telling everybody in here I had some technical difficulties, but they are solved now. I've got a new style of this video that I'm playing around with and would love feedback on it. I think you're going to love it. So this week we're going through Dendera, and this was the first stop on the Egypt trip, the first temple that we went to. And we had a private visit, which was really awesome. We were all kind of on a high from just getting there and getting comfortable. And there's a bunch of really good talks before this. And so we get there at it's pretty much like twilight, and there is a bunch of temples on this ground. It's not just this big the main temple. It's a complex. So my strategy here was go to the outside during the day and explore all of those while I had daylight, and then go into the temple because it's fully lit up. So what you're seeing here is the temple, and the auxiliary temples will be in another video, but this is the main temple, and it's one of the biggest ones in all of the Egyptian temple system. It was one of the first ones to get restored, and you'll be able to see that in the video. And I'm kind of just going to walk through my pathway through the temple while I was wearing these glasses, because there's a lot of stuff that I couldn't film, or I had to pay a guard off to film if that was an option. So what I did was just pretty much leave my glasses camera on, and I, went through. So when you see jump cuts, it's when I usually was like talking to someone or getting yelled at by a guy with a gun. So that's what those are. So I'm just going to start this and kind of just narrate it as it goes. So you're standing on the outside corner, and this temple was almost fully buried. That's the corner there. The Medane project, where that image is coming from, is a monotheistic group that is recording all of these archaeological sites for pretty much biblical history, and they provide no like analysis on it, but it's pretty cool. They do a great job. And this is the sacred lake, and when you walk in, walked all the way back. When you walk in to the temple, you are immediately in the large hypostyle hall. And you can see where the sand was all the way up onto the pillars here. A lot of them are damaged, like below where the sand was. But the video, it doesn't do it justice. The temple is absolutely massive. The pillars are, I think, 8 feet in diameter, and they're at least 30 feet tall. And they restored this one to a really good condition, because when people were in these temples, when they discovered them, people were living inside and on top of the temples. So they had lit fires in here. It was covered in soot. So people had to, the restoration project had to come in and literally scrub all the walls and get the soot off of it, so you can see what these, the hieroglyphs and stuff are saying. Now, these are some really clean ones, but you'll notice that on the walls, a lot of these are chipped off in very specific ways. Like they're chipping off faces and stuff, and we don't know exactly who did it and when they did it. But my theory is the important information was actually scratched off by the priests themselves. I think they did this back in the day when they were still, working in these temples. I think they did that because I'm going to pause this because I need to talk about these. I think they took I think they chiseled them out because they didn't want the people who were invading, or the people, they knew the empire was collapsing. They couldn't protect the information in the temple. So they took the important stuff off with a chisel, and then the rest of it was just destroyed by the people that came in and took over. So that's why, one, we have the most fragmented version of their history possible. Like there's so much we don't know, including a lot of these hieroglyphs. But I was actually looking for the symbol, and I thought it was going to be really hard to find when we were there, but it's on every single temple. And that made me actually really happy, because this is one of the hieroglyphs that I've been talking about. And it is also the God self icon. So what this is the Ankh here, and then his little arms are grabbing two of these staffs, these wasp scepters, and these are typically from my perspective used for grounding, and you can see that it's obviously on the ground, and then the Ankh is typically with a Jed pillar right here, so this is also grounded. So we have 3 grounds. Now these the bowl looking hieroglyphs, and this is again off of my interpretation because I don't really trust the Greco-Roman translation or any translation that's been done at all. I kind of use it as like a reference to see what people think, but I don't believe wholeheartedly what they say about it. Even the Greeks had an insane bias towards pretty much every culture. They were cool. They were cool ancient culture, and they seemed to mediate between a few different ones, but they had strong opinions on, say, like the Persians as well as the Egyptians. So what they write about them may not be entirely accurate, and even though they had their own system of doing this, we'll leave that up to the historians to figure that out. So this bull thing is representing Earth, where the opposite one would be representing the heavens. So when you're grounded to the Earth, and we see the flower here, the flower, I gave a talk on this in Egypt, and in my opinion, is a code, cymatic code, for what frequency is being transmitted by this Jed pillar. And to tap into that frequency, you have to ground. You must ground and this is what you would hook up to it. Whether that's at this point, I don't know. I don't know if it's a human. I don't know if it's a device. I don't know. But what I do know is that the Ankh is a geometric representation of the toroidal geometry of a plasmoid, which is used in alchemy. So I think these on the thresholds are very important, and we'll go into that later, but I just wanted to point that out because this was actually a huge shock to me that this wasn't more rare than I encountered. And you'll see a hole up here too. Go back a few frames. You'll see a hole up here for the giant door that was once here on these temples. So these did have doors that closed and locked at one point in time. And the ones that were buried in sand are obviously going to be a little more torn up without color and stuff. So it's kind of an indicator where the sand was. Very interesting hieroglyphs here that I've been compiling this footage, but I haven't really stopped to look at each one, which has been really difficult for me because I look at them and I'm like, oh, dude, I want to analyze this. But as you can see, every square inch of this place is covered head to toe in hieroglyphs. And even the ceiling most of them are coated in like either stars or the winged sun disk, something up there, indicating heaven's higher consciousness. But I did discover a whole bunch of stuff while making this. So each one of these chambers in this is the secondary chamber. Each one of these chambers has a different geometry, and I didn't realize it before, but after looking at the map and looking at the videos, each chamber is tweaked ever so slightly, and it's not a mistake because the geometry of each chamber has a specific resonance. So each chamber is tuned, and I'm pointing out the soot marks. Also, you can see where the fires were lit up here and all along the ceiling. So each chamber had a resonant tuning. So for my theories and what I assume about these temples is they were actually used to evolve human technology. They were a technology in themselves, but I think they were there to evolve human technology. And to do that, I think the combination of psychedelics and chanting and various other stimuli that you're processing, if you sync those up and you're in a chamber with a specific resonance, I'm pretty sure that we already have evidence that you can change your brain state by the frequency follow response, which is your ears hear something and your brain follows it. So I think those chambers were most likely like a TV station, essentially, for a lesson that you were supposed to get in communicating, not with the body but with the mind, with your spirit body. And that's what they are talking about on the walls in a lot of these things. So I think they got the lessons from these chambers, and maybe that was wisdom from another generation of humans, and maybe it's from another, it could be ETs. I don't know. But when they came back, they were like, we got to write this shit down. And then they put it in the chambers. The mainstream interpretation is going to say they still refer to them as crypts. Even the AIs are referring to them as crypts. So again, we see this one had some Jeds on here. I just noticed this. So this one's pretty cool. This one had the Ankh and the Jed in both of these. So I'm really, really excited to go through this because I think it's really a recipe for maybe an energy state that you need to be in specifically to access this, or a recipe. I'm not sure. So I really am pumped, but I have 7 more of these videos to get through. So in time, we'll get there. And you'll notice they put lights in those light shafts. I'll go over those in a little bit because those are absolutely bonkers. But each one of these is off. It's different. And I was trying to analyze this with AI, and AI was like, the measurements aren't exact everywhere and blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, that's intentional. Tell me what it means. And it was having a hard time, so I was going back and forth with it. But yeah, it's hard when it's pulling from just data that's on the internet. This one is absolutely crazy. Some of them have the original paint, like not chipped off or faded at all. And even the attempts by people hacking at them to get that paint off was unsuccessful. Or they were painted over, which kind of blew my mind too. That some of the chiseled off ones, they had paint on them. And you can see just how wrecked this inner temple was. It's a second chamber inside. Just so much, there's soot and with those gaps that you see that they're filled in there, that's obviously one that's being restored, but the gaps that you see in there where they filled in with concrete. Now this is like a transition hallway, but I want to pause here. These skylights, you'll see, if I can get a clear resolution, you'll see 3 here, and they're not symmetrical. And I want you to really like sit and think about that, because everything else about this temple is perfect geometry, perfect symmetry, to the T, like millimeter precision on a whole bunch of this stuff. But the skylights are off. And they're in a very, very particular shape. And so just marinate on that one for a second. This is what they look like when you zoom in with camera. They look like mini pyramids, and there's inscriptions on them, there's hieroglyphs on them. This one in particular is very interesting because it looks like there's a dead pharaoh or someone that's literally about to ascend through the skylight. And I haven't looked at those hieroglyphs yet, but I'm pretty pumped about it. And when you go in the day, you'll see what these actually do. So these things will literally direct the light in a specific direction depending on where the sun is in the sky. And that's not the same any day of the year because the sun moves, obviously. So these specific locations for the specific skylights will highlight certain hieroglyphs or certain parts of the temple during specific times of the year. Now, why would they do that? Why would they not put rows of these skylights to light up this place equally? Well, obviously the temple is doing something with light. The temple is either manipulating light or using light in such a way that it's affecting something, either the learning process, it's a function of the temple, it's doing something, because these are really precisely calculated. They don't make mistakes in these temples. So I was on a mission to figure this out, and I think I have a theory, but I'm gonna hold off on it for now. This one was crazy. Like there's some of them were just super super thin, and this is another reason why I'm like, okay, they're obviously, and if you walk in one and you hum, you're gonna hear a very specific tone. This one was a stairway, but there are other chambers in this one that are pretty thin. Um, this particular one had these this crazy. There's a few of them that had these staircases in there, and they go up into these chambers that go nowhere. I had to splice some footage here because I was too shaky on the other one and I got yelled at. But this one, there wasn't a guard following me, so I went up here. You can go up in these for no bakshish, but if there's a guard watching you, then it costs money. So if anyone's watching this, that's how you do that for free. You wait till the guard leaves, and then you scurry up the stairs and you go in. So when you go in, it doesn't go anywhere. It's just a box, a very tight box. You can't really stand up. And I couldn't. I'm 6 foot tall, and I was very cramped in there. Again, covered head to toe. But what I did think was cool was when you look out of the that hole where you came in, you can read the hieroglyphs on top very very easily. So maybe it was a lookout for a very important lesson. It's Jason, our security guard guy and cameraman. He's dope. So this is the main chamber. Right there is the Holy of Holies, the main central chamber right here. And on either side are there are pathways to go around the main chamber. You'll see another one of those angled skylights up there. So here's a really big one. And these were like, the bigger they are, the lower the tone. So you'll have to have like a bassier voice to hit the resonance of these bigger chambers. But the smaller ones, you can hum or speak a normal tone, and they'll resonate with that. This hallway is actually pretty cool too. It's horseshoe shape, obviously, but all of these chambers, it kind of isolates the chambers from all the noise that goes around it, which something was going on with sound here. I think we're all pretty aware of that, but I don't know if these had doors. I think they had doors, which would make sense if you're trying to like isolate your, specific sound or specific tone. Again, look how, all of these are just chipped off. But okay, so here was my hang up with that. I'm going to rewind this a little bit. For example, look at this guy here. There's a hieroglyph it looks like it's pecked out by a woodpecker. If someone was coming in here to intentionally destroy this temple or deface the temple, why would you not destroy the whole thing? If you have, a hammer or whatever, you're a soldier, you clearly got something, the blacksmith's hammer, you get the blacksmith's hammer, come in here and tear up a wall. Why wouldn't you tear up the whole wall? This is limestone. It's not granite. It's not like you needed a whole bunch of force and a lot of time to do this. You could come in here right now. They told me not to touch the limestone wall with my hand because it could damage the limestone wall. So why would an invading people do that? And you notice where that the chisel marks are. They're very very high too. Someone was intentionally going up here to specifically erase some details of this for a reason. For what reason, I don't know, but I have a hunch that it was the people that were actually taking care of this temple before shit hit the fan. And they were like, we got to protect this because there's some nasty people coming in, and those nasty people can't get a hold of our secrets because that would be, horrible. Obviously, they were doing some crazy stuff, very powerful stuff. Another really well preserved temple. So you can see the difference in the paint quality of this either Isis or Ma'at. I think it's Ma'at. That and the chiseled out guys. The quality is, I mean, they took off a lot of details. And if you know anything about hieroglyphs, it's every single thing, every detail they added had a meaning. It wasn't purely decorative. It was because there was something that needed to be illustrated. You'll also notice that most of these thrones that the gods or the deities are sitting on are going to be in RGB, red, green, and blue, which are the primary colors of light. And most of the pillars are going to be in cyan, magenta, and green. All right, no, cyan, magenta, yellow. CMY, yeah, cyan, magenta, and yellow. Those are the secondary colors of the visible light spectrum. So together, they make white light. That's a clue for later. Those windows up there too. There's a roof. I'm gonna rewind a little bit. There's a roof that you can go in, or I will go on later. But all these blocks here, even though they're covered in soot, that's like one block. They go probably 15 feet across, huge blocks of limestone. It's not a very intricate roof. It's a massive block by block roof. See, every one of these doors had it, which was seriously, it was mind blowing because I was like, man, this is gonna be so hard to find. I gotta ask some people where this is gonna be at, and then I was like, it's fucking everywhere. The detail on this temple too was great. You'll notice like in the Valley of the Kings and some of the smaller temples, they have carvings that are either later where they weren't as artistically skilled, or they just didn't know how to do hieroglyphs that well. These are even the small ones, like these are probably 3 feet by 2 feet, maybe 3 feet by 3 feet, and you can see the detail on the guy's like kneecaps and stomach and accessories that they're wearing. The amount of time that went into making this temple look the way it did was had to be astronomical. Unless there was some sort of laser involved, you know. Another one of the stair rooms. I don't know what to call those things, but they're very, very. The smaller rooms had an even. I want to call it like a tighter resonance, like a. So like the big rooms, when you'd speak, it would feel vast, but the small rooms were, there was still the same level of echo, but it was just like tighter in your ear. It was faster in your ear. Obviously the frequency was different, but it was, I can't explain it. You have to go to Egypt. I think this one was probably the best preserved one. A little more narrow, but I was very curious why the chamber around the Holy of Holies, the main chamber, almost none of it had any paint on it, whereas like all of the walls, even the walls going into the other chambers had some paint on it. Which we're talking about thousands of years here. There's small details, a lot of guesswork, but it is, some little anomalies were kind of jumping out at me, and I don't know if they're relevant or not. But so this is the stairway that has that melted staircase and the Dendera bulb, but there's a bunch of people at the top, so I didn't get to capture that. And I don't know really how before wide angle lenses they got that image, because the staircase is like, if I put my arms out like this, I was hitting both walls. It's a very narrow staircase, but there's some very interesting hieroglyphs on there, and it is dark too. And I'm also wearing my glasses, so that's why the footage looks kind of choppy. But the details on this one were kind of throwing me for a loop. There's a lot of depictions that I've never seen before in hieroglyphs on there. Not necessarily like the technical ones that you're like, oh, this clearly looks like a circuit diagram, more like actions. So this is the roof, and you can see what I'm talking about. Those are the ceiling blocks. That's how big the ceiling, and they go all the way across the to the next pillar. So that temple there is what we're about to walk into. It's in the corner of the roof, and then right to the left of it is a triple door, a door within a door within a door, and it has the wing disc above it. So what that was, I don't know, but the false doors always throw me for a loop because they're kind of everywhere. And this is a Hathor temple, so all the pillars, the capitals are Hathor, the big ones, and then that secondary chamber there was the floral ones, but these out here were Hathor as well. Cute little temple. Same. There's our guy again. I was geeking, dude. When I first saw that, I was geeking so hard. There's another one. That was a double door. So these the temple, it was hard for me. I didn't put exactly where I was on the temple roof here because it doesn't go straight up and straight down. There's like a middle level, like a limbo level of the temple, and you'll see. So that's the main chamber when you're looking down into it. Or the Holy of Holies is to the right here. So this is like the intermediate chamber in the middle. The door we're about to go in here. So there's an upstairs there. I didn't get to go there obviously because it was locked. There's a door I'm about to go in that drops you down into another level of the temple. And then there's a basement too that I went in, but I didn't get to explore too much because we had to leave. So I kind of just ran through it, ran out. But to the left is the door we're going to go in. That way goes straight back down, and that's just a skylight. But that is the layout of what those melted steps. The melted steps have a window that looks just like this one. So you can it's big enough to lay in. And the angle goes straight down, straight with the temple stairs. So if there was a really strong flash of light, like a solar flare or a very big explosion, then that would heat up a lot of this area here. The sun is going straight down onto those steps. Mr. Marv. So this next room we're going into has the Dendera zodiac on it. And there's a reason why this thing is black and it's not soot. It's because the French took it. Literally, they went in to the temple and they filled the top up with sand. So that's where it is in the museum. They filled the top up with sand, and I wasn't allowed to record the zodiac for some reason, so I went into another chamber and recorded. It literally looked just like this, but it was the zodiac. They went in there and they filled it up. They cut out the zodiac, and then they dug out the zodiac. It's huge. It's in one piece. They dug it out, 3 pieces, and then they pieced it through the doorways, and then they took it to France, and they still have it. Kind of fucked up, but the fact that they wanted that thing of all the things, I mean, I see why zodiac is pretty common thing in most cultures, but if I was the French, I would have taken quite a few more things other than the roof tile. Seems like a large task to tell your soldiers that they have to do on the way back. There's a few of these. I'm just in awe again because I remember walking through every room and just being like, how do you get this much information on the wall? And that was it. At least my organized footage and what I got of that. Is there anything else you would like to add, Nicole?
The last two rooms you were in up on the roof there were actually my favorites. The one where you were showing, it was kind of the mirroring room where they took the Zodiac off.
Yeah.
I actually saw up in that one kind of what looked, again, it's up on the roof or on the ceiling of that room, and it kind of looked like either a brain or a spiral. Yeah, right there. Depending upon when you looked at it and how you looked at it, there was some really cool shapes in here that were very different from all the other hieroglyphs. And there was also the image along the entire outer part of that ceiling of the goddess or god that
Oh,
folds
yeah, Nut.
themselves over. Which
Yeah.
one?
Nut.
No.
Yeah, she holds up the stars.
Yep. So she's on the total outside of this, and then there's that, and it kind of, in some senses, it looks like a baby, and in other senses, it
Yeah.
looks like the brain, and it's just got it like changes every time you look at it, but it's something, and it's just
Oh,
different than
yeah.
everywhere else, or at least I thought it was. And then when you go into that next room after that, there was something on the ground right where he's standing. There's actually like a little metal box on the ground, and the guard took the metal box off, and you're basically standing straight under the
That box
right
right there?
here. See
Yeah.
that box right near his
Yeah.
feet? You're standing right under one of those little skylights, and with that box off, I believe there's some sort of resonance that happens, which is why the box is on top of it. So I paid bakshish, but I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to do in there, and he had a big rifle, and so I just kind of ran
Oh,
away after I like looked at it. But there's definitely something going on with the symmetry of the hole in the ground and the thing
yeah.
above you. It was very bizarre.
Well, that seems like a feeder valve almost for the sounds to, so like you create a big sound in the main chamber and then it gets filtered out into those top chambers, you know? Maybe that's the case. I don't know. That I didn't know that that was a skylight. When I went in here, he he pointed at this thing and he was like, meditate, meditate. And I was like, no, because at this point I knew that everyone was trying to get money. And I was like, I'm good, I'm good. He's like, no, 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 free, free. And so I sat there. I was like, no, dude. And he was like, so I sat there and I was just like, because you can't concentrate, you know, like, you have 20 seconds to really do it. And I can't, there's so much going on, and the fucking Egyptian guys having guns and stuff. It's a real peaceful environment to meditate in, you know? So I'm sitting here and I'm like trying to feel what was going on with it. And I'm like, that makes a lot more sense. If that's the feeder valve and it's going into this thing, you probably catch some sort of crazy resonant vibe in there, and it does something, but literally impossible to tell in these temples. And that was like the most frustrating thing for me, is like, seeing them is cool, but I wanted to feel it, I wanted to feel what was going on in them. And I just felt like I was just rushed the whole time with it, which was kind of a bummer. Not necessarily even with the tour group. It was more like the guards and stuff were doing more to make me feel rushed than anything. I do want to go out to the front again, because I kind of glazed over this real quick. So yeah, again, that's like as where it was when it was excavated, so about halfway up. But I did want to show the entire outside is covered in hieroglyphs too, and these depictions. You see all these like Osiris's down here, Hathor right there. Those are like at least 10 feet tall, at least. And then each one of those lines, and I was telling people in the tour this time, because I could actually talk and I wasn't getting yelled at. The way that they did these, and I don't know if this is all of them or if this is just some of them, like at Edfu, the way that they did the hieroglyphs was the past is the lowest part, the present is in the middle, and the future is on top. So it was more like a hieroglyphic movie that you had to know how to read it. So like it didn't necessarily matter where you started. Like you could go and read history, or you could read the present, or you could read the future at the top. It just depends on where you were looking. I'm again not that well versed in hieroglyphs, but I did catch that from one of our tour guides. And this is pretty. This one is not as like riddled with bullet holes and stuff too. So there's these auxiliary temples too, like this guy out here. I didn't get to go into this one, but there are underground shafts under this. This is a sacred pond, so this would have been filled completely with water. And in my opinion, it was similar to like the Dune theory, where they kept like the water of their people, literally the water of their people, in these sacred reservoirs. And I feel like there's had to be a roof or something over this. I don't think they would leave it open. Maybe they did, but it definitely went underground. And there was doors literally right underneath where I'm standing there, and there was a door, I think, yeah, right there, right across. You can see, and that's like a human-sized door too, so you can see how deep these things are. Every temple usually has a sacred pond in it. Like Karnak had a huge one. But yeah, anything else that you noticed, Nicole, or anything else you want to add? All right, well, I think I'm going to cut it off there. I'm going to do some housekeeping this week and start uh, the onslaught of my posts. So I said in the update that I'm going to be I'm bringing someone else on to help me with the content, and that's because it's not that I don't have content to post on here. I literally have too much. I don't know how to post it. So what I'm going to do is I'm having an organizing session tomorrow, and I'm going to get a game plan laid out, and I'm just going to pretty much dump it and then see where everybody feels with it and where we want to go. And this is just stuff that we can talk about and stuff. There's no real weight to it, but it's something that I wanted to do to get everybody engaged, because I know it was a cool thing to have this community when I first started here, and everyone was talking about the experiences and stuff, and I really missed that. I just we got really 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 overloaded for a while, and now I'm overloaded on the other end. I wasn't keeping up enough with the stuff I was making. So good news for you guys, I have a lot of content. Bad news is uh there's, I don't know, going to be a lot of it, if that's bad news. So hope you
Understandable. It's a
guys.
lot of work.
I'm sorry.
It's a lot of work. Take it easy on yourself.
It's
You're doing a great job. With such
Thank
an
you.
amount of content is insane. I mean, it's all the knowledge of the universe. Truly, that's what you're trying to sort out for us.
Yeah,
All of the knowledge of the universe.
yeah.
It's a big thing.
It's hard to organize. Let's say that. I have a lot more respect for the Egyptians now with their with their style, because they clearly sat on this problem for quite a while. But uh, I definitely want to hit everybody like kind of in the middle too, because some people are really beginners, some people are wanting the really advanced stuff, and I just know that the school wants to go really deep and really like dig into this stuff, and I kind of lost a little bit of sight of that, just because I have to make so much social content that stuff is always almost right in the middle. Whenever I go too high, it's just like I lose people. Whenever I go too low, people are, it's just the social media thing. So here I've really decided that this is going to be kind of my testing ground, where I'm just, even ideas that I'm not 100% sure of, I'll just be like, hey guys, I'm just thinking if this is a possibility. What's the consensus
I'm
here?
hearing over and over again, follow your instinct. Follow your instinct. Follow those intuitions, because you've been chosen to do this. You've been chosen to do this. Therefore, the intuitions that you're going to get are there for a reason. Don't second guess them. Go ahead and jump into those rabbit holes. The content is important.
That's actually one of the things that I got in Egypt, not necessarily the chosen part. Just like the following the intuition is really the key, because I've done that since I've started this project. That this whole project was just a wild thought I had where I'm like, I'm gonna see if there's people are into this. And every time I go against it, every time I think I know more than the intuition, it goes badly. And there's been a couple of things that I've tried and they were like not as successful as I wanted them to be, just because I was so invested in making it happen exactly the way that I wanted it to happen. And so
Not going to all the time.
Yeah, that's why I'm gonna just you guys are getting the full dump on it, so
Play with it. Have fun with it. Okay? Don't expect so much out of it. Have fun with it and you'll have the most wonderful breakthroughs.
good advice for everybody, actually. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna get this uploaded so everybody else can enjoy, and then we'll dive into some new stuff this week.
I can't wait to share it.
Awesome. I'll see you guys next time.
Take care, hon.
Bye, Nicole.
Okay, bye-bye.